Manny Tiamzon from Valhallan Esports Training. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, listening to S.M.E stories.
You are now listening to the next great small business podcast. Welcome to the S.M.E Stories podcast, where it is all about small businesses in Canada. And here's your host, Ken Alfred.
Hey everybody, thanks for the show. We got a great episode today with Manny Tiamzon. Now, Manny Tiamzon is the franchise owner of Valhallan Esports Training. So a little bit about Valhallan. At Valhallan, they believe in video games are more than just entertainment, that they're a powerful tool for personal growth and community building. They're on a mission to guide young players to realize their full potential in both esports and in life. Now, it was founded in Houston, Texas, and they've expanded to across North America, and Manny owns the Whitby location close to Ajax, Ontario. So it's just a little bit more about Valhallan. It's become quickly the world's largest and fastest growing esports franchise with arenas across all the country. Valhallan is bringing education, life skills, and inclusive competition to youth gamers everywhere. So Manny is a franchise owner, and he plays a key role in providing a positive, structured environment where young players thrive. I also mentioned this as well, is that my son currently trains at Valhallan Esports Training, and a little bit about Manny himself personally. He's actually retired from Enbridge Gas, where he worked there for many, many years, and basically he got bored of being retired. So he decided to say, okay, you know what, I'm bored. What should I do? He decides to buy an esports training franchise. So we're going to hear a lot more about that. So sit back and absorb. Let's talk about the actual tips from the pro segment here. So these are questions that if people want to get involved in the esports business, what generally they should be, what kind of things that they should be looking at?
Now it's time for tips from the pro.
So, all right. So question number one. So when you when you worked with Valhallan and they kind of gave you the blueprint, so where did you get the equipment from in terms of, was it something that there was already a pre-approved spec sheet of here's the computers you need to use, or did you have to kind of look out for it yourself?
Well, they provide us with the minimum specs for the computers, but I had to provide them all myself.
You had to get it yourself. So
Yes.
you had to source suppliers who can provide the actual equipment.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
obviously, and for those listeners who don't know what's the difference between a regular computer and a gaming computer, what's the difference, Manny? Can you tell the listeners that?
Well, we need to have higher power hardware, especially when it comes to your GPU. The graphics processing unit you have on your computer. That is quite crucial to your gaming experience. Also, when it comes, because most of those games are done online, so we're going to be using the internet. So you need to have a pretty good internet speed, as well as when it comes to the network latency is actually more important for gaming rather than the speed itself.
Right. So the latency is basically just, when you're clicking on something, it's instantaneous. There's not a
Right.
delay
Yes.
in clicking a button or hitting anything like that.
Mhm.
So I think this is really important that people understand too, for that is that because some people think when they get a franchise, everything is going to be provided, right? It's not just pay the money and yep, we're going to ship you all the product. We're going to ship you all the marketing material. We're going to ship you everything here. All you got to do is just find a space for it and then just install it. Like you actually
Mm,
had to.
yeah, I had to provide all the equipment myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what kind of tips did you learn in that whole experience? Because it's one thing when you buy, let's say, a simple a computer and a chair and some keyboard with stuff when it's just for your own personal PC. Explain the difference of when you had to look for 20.
Um, well, buying 20 computers, gives me some leverage with the supplier to give me some possible discounts on the actual equipment itself. Um, I mean, yeah, that's the thing, right? That gave me the leverage for the suppliers to provide me with something,
Yeah.
much less than if you have to buy them retail.
Well, yeah, bulk purchasing usually it plays into the favor of the buyer, right? Because
Mhm.
you can negotiate some of those things. So I guess the next question I think I see here is that what was the hardest what was the hardest part of your of setting up your operation?
I would say when I was looking for a space, that was really the hardest part for me. Um, I live in Scarborough. Initially, I wanted to set up my business here in Scarborough, but as you know, I ended up in Whitby. The problem with looking for a space in Scarborough, which is basically part of the city of Toronto.
Mhm.
Toronto has very specific zoning rules that basically doesn't allow me to set up this kind of a business, believe it or
Really?
not. So many of the zoning rules that Toronto has are pretty much related to this kind of business are quite archaic. I would say dating back to the 1970s. They have to update, Toronto has to update its zoning rules when it comes to this kind of businesses.
So for the zoning people, so that we're talking like residential, commercial, industrial kind of zoning.
Yes,
So
that's correct.
where you wanted to try to put it,
Mhm.
for some reason, it wasn't zoned for commercial. That's why you couldn't go in that area. Is that why?
Well, it's more specific than that. Actually, when it to make the story short, the neighborhood commercial centers, like say a community
Mhm.
plaza, when I told them what this kind of business is, they classified it as some kind of a gaming arcade,
Oh,
and
like a
they
video
wouldn't allow.
arcade.
Yeah, a video arcade, just like what you see in the movie theaters,
Right.
and that's how they classified it. So when I applied for a zoning application here, they said no, this kind of business is zoning arcade. You need to do this in one of the big malls, something
Really?
like that. Yeah, so that's why I ended up going further and further away from the
Further,
city of
further
Toronto,
east. Oh
further
my
and further
goodness.
east. Yeah. Well, fortunately, Whitby has more relaxed zoning rules than Toronto, so I was able to find a spot in Whitby.
Okay. Well, no. So that's good to know because I think for most people, they don't think about stuff like that, right? Because they just thought,
No.
okay, I'll just find a spot, reach out to the landlord, say, hey, looks like you're leasing space available. I'd like to do this and yada, yada, yada. But
Yeah.
for zoning is something most people don't even think about, like you said.
No. No. I didn't even think about it.
No, because you just said, okay, I'm going to set up an esports operation. And of course, you had to educate them what esports is. And
Right. Right.
the fact that they call it a video arcade,
Hmm.
what I don't see, you don't put any coins in any of these computers, people. So I
No.
don't think you're,
No.
they're
No.
regular computers. So,
Yeah.
all right. So I guess the next question we have here as well is how do you deal with the stigma of the actual esports, I guess, industry, right? Because I guess for some people, when you tell them this and they're like, they give you that look, there's that side of the coin that said video games. How do you deal with that stigma?
Yeah. You mean, there's been video games has had a bad rep among parents in the past, including myself, right? Including myself.
Including me too.
Yeah. So I thought that generally video games was something that's bad for kids. Okay. However, there have been a lot of studies that have been done on video games, and there are actually some benefits kids playing video games, especially when it comes to the cognitive skills. Like for example, focus and concentration, problem solving. There's already a lot of studies there that prove that video games can help kids develop their cognitive skills. So, aside from the life skills that we mentioned earlier when it comes to team games, there's a lot of benefits for video games also when it comes to developing cognitive skills.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. I think, and also the social aspect too, Manny, is that
The
because
social aspect, correct?
because if you
Yes.
think about it, for a lot of people who play video games,
Mhm.
they're usually isolated at
Right.
home and
Good point.
they don't know who they're talking to, and they don't want to get involved with that. But when you come to a place like yours
Hmm.
and they're now interacting with people and now they can bond literally over it, because sometimes you don't know these things until you actually are there and you see the kids and they're joking around. And like I said, so when I told Manny this, and I told this to listeners this, when I brought my son there for the first day of March break, just dropping him off, all the
Hmm.
kids were quiet, very
Yeah.
shy,
Hmm.
they didn't know anybody. And my God, when I was getting ready to pick them up after day one, it just sounds like a party.
Yeah.
It sounded like a party. You go
Yeah.
in there, the kids are talking to each other
Yeah.
like they've known each other their whole lives,
Yes.
right?
Right.
And it's just an amazing experience. And for those kids, let's say, who are more introverted, who
Hmm.
may not normally do that, to see
Hmm.
them interact and to
Correct.
getting out of their comfort zone and actually being able to be social with other kids
Right.
was amazing.
Yeah.
right? And I talked to some
Yes.
parents where they're like, "Oh man, this is so great because
Yes.
otherwise my kid would just be quiet at home and we don't know." And now we're seeing their social skills really improve just by
Yeah.
being here, which is awesome, right? Which is
Right.
great.
That's a good point to mention about the social aspect of esports also. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, okay, the next question here. So we talked about the stigma already. We talked about bulk purchasing, which is really, really good.
Mhm.
And what are some of the red flags when you're developing, when you're getting through this that you saw that would be like, okay, if someone wanted to replicate what you did, Manny, what best advice would you kind of give them what not to do?
Okay, well, I would say, get involved with, get involved with the parents. I mean, the parents need to know what is happening. And I mean, ultimately, because we're dealing with kids, ultimately it's gonna be the parents who are going to be making the decisions. So you need to be working with the parents as well as the kids also, and then we need to get some good coaches.
Yeah.
Get good coaches
So
to help the
So
kids.
it sounds like making sure, like really working on your. So the mistakes that people make is that they only target the kids because
Hmm.
they think the kids are going to just convince the parents. Where you
Right,
actually have to do the work yourself, which is
right,
really educate them.
hmm
Would you talk about too, hiring the right people,
right
right?
people.
Because
Yes.
there, and remember, just because that the coaches really play the game well
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best coaches, and that's what
That's
people
true.
have to understand, right?
That's
Because
true.
I always joke with I always joke that there's certain people like they're the technicians and then there are the managers.
Hmm.
There are some people who are awesome technicians. They're the best at everything. But the
Right.
minute you try to get them to manage or coach or anything,
Hmm.
they're horrible
Yeah.
because they physically can do well with their hands on everything, but
Right.
when it comes to building people up, not
Mhm.
so great. And
That's
I
true.
guess you want to make sure you find the right kind of people
Yeah.
that is a bit of both, which is
Yeah.
really really great.
You remember Michael Jordan tried to become a manager of a basketball team, but
Yeah.
apparently he wasn't that good of a manager.
Well, yes. Well, MJ has to suck at something aside from baseball, right? But he actually no, I can't even say he sucks at baseball because he actually made it. He was actually on the White Sox, I believe,
Mhm.
back in that time when he was taking off of basketball. So
Mhm.
that's really cool. So, well, I'm just trying to think if there's any other questions that we need to ask from the industry side and stuff like that. So you said you talked about some other mistakes, and I guess zoning would be one that you have
Mhm.
to really talk about when you're figuring out this whole thing. When you saw other franchises, did anything set you off that like, oh, that's not a good franchise? Was there anything similar that you saw when you were looking at different options?
Well, I can't say so much about the other franchises at this point. I mean, well, basically, most of us are pretty much in at the same stage. We're still pretty much in the build of the business.
Mhm.
So I think we're all experiencing the same thing as well.
Well, maybe I'll rephrase the question. So,
Okay.
you saw when you looked at other franchises in general,
Oh,
right?
I see. I see.
Yeah, like was there something that aside from let's say non esports related, but was there something in their materials that raised a red flag to say, oh, okay, either the fee's too high or there's something here that no support, or what did you see that kind of veered you away from certain franchises?
Well, I mean, one of the things is sometimes the franchise fees could be so high. I found the franchise fee quite reasonable when it
Hmm.
came to Valhallan, and the fact, well, but ultimately, what attracted me to this franchise was that it's about educating the kids to build their life skills, and I'm quite passionate about that. Educating kids,
Yeah.
training them to become successful in their lives, not just in video games.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and just so someone has an idea, if they want to put money aside, like we're not going to ask you specifically what was the franchise fee, but for in your opinion, what were the fees that you saw that were very like in your opinion were reasonable ranges if you're going to look into getting a franchise?
Well, I mean, definitely not a McDonald's. You're gonna
No.
need millions of dollars to get the franchise, but anywhere, let's say, between 20 to 40K, I think would be a reasonable franchise fee. Okay.
Okay, 20 to 40, that's a reasonable. Yeah, because there's some fees that you see that's only like 5,000 to own a franchise. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
there's a reason why it's 5K, right? It literally just means that they pay you the fee, you pay the fee, and you get a bumper sticker that says that's your company, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
more to it than that.
Yeah. This
So
is more. I mean, as I said, this is a turnkey solution. So Once you pay the franchise fee, then you get all the materials from the franchisor, and we get a lot of support from them as well.
Nice. All right. So we're going to wrap this up really closely soon. We're just going to do our rapid fire round now, which is just more fun questions about everything. So
Now it's time for the rapid fire round.
first question, what would the 15-year-old self be thinking you'd be doing now?
I would probably be out in the beach,
Out on
enjoying
a beach.
myself. Yeah,
So not thinking about work, but on a beach. Okay, that's
yeah.
great. Next question, what is your guilty pleasure?
Chocolate.
What kind of chocolate? I got to push back on this. What kind of chocolate?
Well, chocolate bar. Any chocolate bar, I think is my guilty pleasure.
Oh wow! So you're good for anything because there's certain chocolates I won't eat for some reason. I'm not a big fan of dark chocolate. Yes, I know it's healthier, people. I
Yeah,
know it's
I
healthier.
agree. I agree.
I can't eat it. I don't like it. I like the white and the rich chocolate ones. Yes, I know they're not good for you either, but
Right.
they're the tastiest for me. And I think for
Milk
some
chocolate.
reason, mint chocolate is good. I like mint
Yeah.
chocolate.
Mhm. Yeah.
For some reason, I can't do the chocolate with the fruit
With the
inside.
fruit,
That
I don't like that either.
that throws me off. I feel like
Mhm.
if you want to have fruit, you can have it separately.
Right.
That's just me going. Okay. So the next question I have is that who would you actually want to be on a 15-hour flight with? If you could sit with anybody, who would it be?
I'm a Raptors fan, so I would probably
Oh,
think of maybe Kyle Lowry.
wow. Kyle Lowry.
Kyle
I
Lowry.
mean, he's
I
not a
like Kyle
Raptor right
Lowry.
now, but that's okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I would actually love to have said, talked to Dwayne the Rock Johnson. I mentioned that on a previous podcast. I really want to sit and pick his brain just for the fact that for someone where money is not an issue anymore,
Hmm.
why he works so hard.
That's
I'm always kind of curious. That
yeah.
and also my late father, especially when it comes to parenting advice,
Of course, of course.
because I'm surprised he didn't throw me out the window multiple
Hmm.
times when I was in my teens.
Hmm.
So I want to know how he would have done when I'm going through stuff with my son. I would have said, "How did you do that, Dad? How did you do it? How did you not kill me?" Right? That's basically what it would have been.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
last couple of questions here. If you can have a sandwich, what would be on it, and what would you call it?
I like egg sandwiches.
Okay.
With egg.
Hmm.
I don't know how to call them. I'm not really okay. Maybe some. I'm not very creative when it comes to names, but maybe a bacon egg sandwich.
Bacon and egg sandwich.
Bacon and
Okay.
egg sandwich. Yeah.
Bacon and egg salad sandwich. Is that what you
Salad
said?
sandwich. Yeah.
Oh, you go. I
Yeah.
like that. I
Mhm.
like that combination. We'll come up with something. We'll call it the Valhallan for now. That's what we'll call
Valhallan.
it.
Yeah, that's a
There
good,
we go.
good Valhallan egg sandwich. Be a good one.
There we go. Okay. All right. Last question we have here is um, what is your theme song and why? So when that song hits, like you're walking down the street, that song hits, everyone knows Manny's coming. Which one is that for you?
Theme song with my for myself or for
For you.
my wife.
For you.
Okay. One of my favorite singers has been Michael Bublé. So I
Oh.
think any Michael Bublé song, "Save the Last Dance" for me. I think
Oh,
that would be something that would represent me.
that's a really nice one too. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is, he has that very classical sounding voice where it
Yes.
seems like you're listening to like Sinatra or
Mhm.
anything, one of the other
Correct.
ones.
Yeah.
But apparently, which I did not know, he has one of the most foul mouthed people that are there. But he's so
Okay.
good,
Yeah.
meaning that not to say he's like there dropping f bombs everywhere he goes,
Mhm.
but it's one of those things that in the middle of his while he's singing in his concerts, he might drop a bomb here and there, or he'll use different language that I guess when you think of like a classical, you know, jazz or those type of
Balladeer. Yeah.
yeah, you
I like
wouldn't
the
you think
balladeers. Yeah.
yeah, so you think you'd be like, oh, they're just going to be so astute and all this sort of stuff, but he would really make a lot of interesting comments. But that does, and I still would want to actually hang out with Michael Bublé as well, especially now that he has that deal with what do they call it? Not Bublé, but Bubble, that the
Yeah.
drink.
The drink that yeah, I forgot that drink. Right.
I think they actually have I think they're going to rename it, calling it the Buble, for all I know. So that's
Okay.
good to know. All right. So last question here: what advice would you give to someone who wants to pursue something, whether it's in the esports space or just any business altogether?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty. Many have heard this. I mean, you follow your own passions, regardless. Well, in my case, I'm a little bit quite old to start. to become an entrepreneur. But I don't think it's too late for anyone to do anything that they are passionate in.
Follow your passion.
Follow your
Great,
passion.
great words. Great words. So, all right, Manny, where can people find you?
Well, you can go to our website, valhallan.com. We're also on Facebook. You can search for Valhallan Whitby. We're on Instagram. We're also on TikTok. Just search for Valhallan Whitby.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Manny. It was awesome for you to be on the show.
Thanks a lot, Ken, for having me.
Hey you, do you need a voiceover? Well, look no farther. Northway Capital Group has your answer. Commercials and explainer videos, AVR and voicemail, health and wellness, corporate training and e-learning, announcements, documentaries, and biography. Contact us on social media or email us at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com.
Hey, do you need an error-free website? Do you need transcription that's accurate and on time? Would you like to remove noise from your video or audio recording? Do you need a spokesperson for your business? If so, we can help. At Northway Capital Group, we are happy to announce that we are now providing website testing services, audio transcriptions, and audio cleanup, as well as spokesperson services. We would love to help you on your next project. Contact us for more information at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast, which is owned by Northway Capital Group. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Northway Capital Group.